Just before the coffee break, we heard a couple of times, and I think it's very important, about upskilling, about training, CPD, and how important it is in our branch and to come to NZAP buildings. So my presentation is actually going about two projects, the Prof-Trac project and the BIMplement project, who address training, upskilling and CPD. And in both projects, the Council of Europe is one of our most important partners. So to start with a little overview of the current situation, if you look in the European Union, we might expect that we have a slight shortage of building workers by 2020. And this is not so much the problem. What the real problem is that there is much more a need for upskilling these workforces. And it is expected that about 3 million workers, both blue-collar workers and white-collar workers, need upskilling by 2020, especially in energy efficiency and technology on NZAP building and reconstruction. So one of the challenges of the European Union is not only to come to this upskilling, but also to improve the skills of the European workforce, to come to a better quality of NZAPs, especially to reduce the performance gap, both in energy as in other performances. And one of the scopes is to upgrade or setting up large-scale qualification and training schemes. These training schemes should be cross-trade, cross-level, so this means that we have to have a kind of understanding and transparency between all the trades and the levels that we have. In other words, an architect must understand an engineer and vice versa. But also blue-collar workers should understand the work of white-collar workers and vice versa. All by all, I think that no quality and quality control in construction and renovation can be achieved without the required skill and trainings. So the European Union has some instruments for that. For example, the Build Up Skills, Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 programs. Pillar 1 is mainly about national qualification platforms and roadmaps. Pillar 2 already about qualification and training schemes, all on a national level and all only addressing the blue-collar workers. But in the Horizon 2020 program, there was a new call, construction skills. In fact, there were two calls, in the EE4 call and the EE14 call, which also address white-collar workers and blue-collar workers, and also on an international scale. Prof-Trac was the very first project that has been contracted in the construction skill call in 2014, and BIMplement just started this year. By the end of this year was, I think, the first project that was contracted in the EE14 skills. And again, in both projects, the Council of Europe has a key role. So, towards a quality control, because that is really the key issue of coming to upskilling, Prof-Trac is, if you look at the properties of Prof-Trac, it's cross-trade, it's a multidisciplinary approach, but only focusing on white-collar workers. The main issues that we addressed in Prof-Trac were developing methodologies for skills mapping and qualification schemes on one hand, but also to come to a central train-the-trainers program in Europe. And all these trained trainers could start new national programs. BIMplement builds upon the results and the legacy of Prof-Trac. Prof-Trac will end in February next year. And again, it's also cross-trade, but it's also cross-level. We look at white and blue-collar workers. But the most important issue is that we aim for an enhanced quality control, which is enabled by BIM. And we consider BIM as a universal information carrier. Also, the implementation is quite different. We really look on hands-on BIM workplaces and learning tools. So, some words about Prof-Trac, as this project is almost completed and has many results already available. The main goal was to come to a kind of an open education and platform, a platform that we can use for CPD, and it's mainly addressed for professionals in the building sectors. So that can be architects, building managers, engineers, and we do that at a middle and senior professional level. This platform will also be used for developing a European qualification scheme to be considered as a part of a lifelong learning process, and also for a continuing upskilling of the professionals. Some of the results, I will not mention all, but we have many. One of the most important things that we did was to come to a methodology of skills mapping, so that we could have a good picture of the skills gap of every profession in each country involved. From there we came to 7 national roadmaps where we could build upon to come to national training programs. We also have, for example, a build-up skills advisor app to be used by professionals. A European qualification scheme, I come to that, back to that later. A database, an educational guide, and last but not least also a train-the-trainer program in which we train trainers to start national courses. This is an example of the skills mapping that we have. It's quite simple. For each profession and each subject you can give an indication what the required level of knowledge should be, what the skills should be, and what's actually present. And the difference between these two is the skills gap that you have to address. And from there you can start to work on training and upskilling. Together with this, we also developed qualification schemes for each profession, for each phase in the building process, on all the issues that we also addressed in the skills mapping methodology. And by using these skills mapping tools and qualifications, we can, for example, come up with these kind of radar diagrams about what kind of competences and skills do you need to have in the architectural branch, or for example, if you are a mechanical engineer. This is all available now and you can find it on our website. Also quite important is that we have an extended database online, and in this database all the training material that we could find in Europe from previous European programs is gathered. You can use it to build your own courses. It's free to use. It has a search engine, it has several options, and you can also now upload, for example, new material if you have so. And for example, if you once you have been trained in our project, you have the right and the access to upload also your own material. This is a really rich database, and you can use it for free. So you can find everything on energy efficiency, renewables, and ends up building and reconstruction. So Prof-Trac was again the basis for BIMplement, and if I look to BIMplement, we had a kind of simple overall aim, and it was to achieve an improved quality of ends-up construction and renovation by setting up large-scale training programs, CPD, and we do this with BIM enhanced qualification scheme. So BIM is here a key to achieve this. It's not the overall goal, it's a tool, it's a mean to come to a better quality. And also we address the entire value chain. What's typically in BIMplement is that we consider it cross-trade, but also cross-level. And we try to do that with hands-on and BIM enhanced workplaces and learning tools. So we have 4 key objectives. The improved quality was already mentioned. It looks very ambitious. As we say, we want to create a new generation of professionals, but at least we would like to work on a basis for that. A new type of professionals and craftsmen that are really deliver high quality ends-up projects. Also very important to foster the interactions between all these different trades and professions. And as in Prof-Trac, we also have a repository where we have all the material available. So coming to the approach, in fact we have to come to a good quality ends-up building or renovation, we have 3 approaches, 3 pillars. First of all, the qualification methodology that is necessary, a knowledge repository and educational tools, BIM enhanced, and BIM is considered as a medium for this. So to start with the qualification methodology, in fact, we do not have to start from scratch in BIMplement because we can build upon the legacy that we have from Prof-Trac. But what we do is add BIMplement taxonomies in order to have a more common language. Then, of course, we have the knowledge repository and the educational tools. And this is especially necessary because we have different quality needed in different member states. So it's necessary that we also assess the current state, and from there we can fill in the developed quality frames with the suitable education materials. And again, we can use many materials from previous projects. And finally, we use BIM as a medium for this. So BIM, in our vision, is not the ultimate goal, but in fact improved quality for end-up construction and renovation. That is the real goal. But the best approach to reach these goals, seems for us to be BIM. So BIM is really for us a tool for this. Looking at the implementation, a few words about it. The first step that we do is develop the methodology. It's already in progress. From there we start with local pilot repositories where we have BIMplement coaches as a kind of awareness manager, awareness campaign manager. We have field labs where the first testings take place, training of BIM workplace trainers, and from there we go to experimental sites. And in our project we have more than 50 sites where we try our methodologies. Only in France alone we have 50 sites where we can test our methodologies. But we also do it in Spain, the Netherlands, Poland, and in Lithuania. And from there we try to see if we can really come to BIMplement in practice. So, in a nutshell, we use BIM as a universal information carrier for the quality control. We identify quality control levels. From there, we identify the necessary skills and the evolved trained and professional levels that is needed to come to this quality. And from there, we can identify which trainings are necessary and which upskilling is necessary. And this is all BIM enhanced. Cross-trade, cross-level, and with this we can enrich BIM models with process or learning metadata. Another issue is that we really use hands-on and BIM enhanced workplaces and learning tools. And we do this as again mentioned, in at least 50 building sites. The cross-cutting approach is quite important. It's not only cross-trade, cross-level, it's also cross-time, every moment in the building process, but also flexible enough to add, for example, new technologies, innovations, etc. Cross-country, it must be exchangeable with other between countries. Cross-value, cross-size. We mainly focus on SMEs, but we also have a large construction company in our consortium. And we use regional or local experience centers or BIM hubs. This is I think an architect will not like this picture because it's an HVAC system, but what we in fact do, this is a typically BIM picture. What we can do is simply add some lines, some rules in it about what kind of quality do you need to make these details, what kind of professions do you need, and what kind of training. This is in fact what we add to the existing BIM models. So, to come to the conclusions, I started with a summary of the task and the challenge that we have in Europe, the massive upskilling that is needed, And although the task is massive, 3 million workers need to be upskilled, I do not think that the bus and construction skill projects and actions are just a stitch in time. I think that they really contribute to this. Especially what we saw in Prof-Trac, the train-the-trainer approach is really effective and creates a kind of a snowball effect. What we also notice is that architectural professions are crucial in this when it comes to achieving quality, and I come back to that later in two pictures. And we think that BIM could enable this and facilitate this learning process, also in a mutual understanding between all these trades. And last but not least, and I think this is very important, quality control, upskilling, training should also take into account all end-user related aspects, because the end user is finally the main stakeholder group who has to benefit of it, especially when we discuss deep renovation. And Architect Council of Europe is now also involved in a project dealing with deep renovations with the end user in the center. It's the AAA Arena project, which will start within a few months, I hope. So, I've been asked for 2 or 3 questions. I don't have questions, but this is what I would like to share with you. And these are some televotings that we had from an event a couple of weeks ago in Bucharest. What was it? The vocational skills for energy efficient buildings. And one of the questions is which trade or professions have the most influence on the building energy performance and quality? As you see, by far, the architectural branch is considered as the most important one, 53%. That's the good news. This is the bad news. Which trades and professions need the most training to achieve this? Again, the architect. From my own practice, I'm an engineer, but I teach in Hasselt to the Faculty of Architecture for architectural students, and I try to learn them a little bit about building services, but I always start to learn them how important architecture is to avoid all these unnecessary installations. And this is key. I think that there we can do a lot of training, and my belief is that BIM is one of the most powerful tools to come to this quality and to this upskilling. Thank you for your attention.